is everyone? Good to see you. I have some announcements to go over before we start Satsang. Our adventure club trip is going to be to Jonathan Dickinson Park, and we're going to be canoeing / kayaking up to Trapper Nelson's on Saturday morning, the 19th. But I want to make you aware that it's like 3.5 miles each way. It's not a short kayak. We can change our mind if you don't want to do it. They said it takes about 2 hours each way. You can rent a kayak. There's somewhere, or a canoe. There's somewhere around between $20 and $30 for 2 hours, and then $5 for every hour after that. You can get a tandem kayak, a regular kayak, or a canoe. They don't have the back seats for the canoe, so it can be very uncomfortable. I have my own kayak, so I'm bringing my own kayak. But we're going to kayak up to Trapper Nelson's. Has anybody been to Trapper Nelson's? Does anybody know what Trapper Nelson's is? Okay, so maybe I should start there. Trapper Nelson's was a guy who fought in World War II, and when he came back from World War II, just came down toward Florida on a train and didn't really know where he was going or where he was going to stay. And he came to Jupiter, Florida, and he loved it, and he thought this is the place. And he marched off into the woods and started living off the fat of the land. So his sort of little compound there, his little home, and what he did, he trapped animals and sold their pelts. He had a little zoo there. So they show you where he did that. It's still there. So this is after World War II, and they preserved it as a national park. So at Jonathan Dickinson Park in the Loxahatchee River, you can kayak up to it, and then there is a guide there that can tell you all about it, and it's really neat. I've been up there once. And so the idea was to get there, around 10, and kayak up and spend some time there, and then come back and then have a barbecue. So we'd probably be barbecuing around 2 or 3. You can come for the kayak. You can come just for the barbecue. There are at times there is a pontoon boat that goes up there, or they do rent motorboats. Yeah, but the problem is the Loxahatchee River is a tidal river, and so when the tide goes out and it's like low tide at 12 o'clock, you can't run anything with a prop in it. So we would, if we wanted to do that, it would have to be 9 o'clock in the morning. So, any feedback on that? Does it sound exciting? Did we lay an egg this time? We meaning me. Who's interested in going? Who's coming? Okay. Saturday the 19th. Yes. Yeah, it's, 2 hours in a kayak or 4 hours in a kayak won't be much for me, and you're getting out and walking around in between. The idea was I didn't realize that it was tidal water, and I thought that the pontoon boat, so those who wanted to come and just take the boat up could come any time, but it's not that way. So, if people did want to come take the motorboats, then we would have to just get there earlier. I know this crowd is not a big fan of early, so that's the story. Sound good? Sound fun? Yeah. Well, we'll have to see. I don't think that there are too strong a current. She said if it's windy, the wind will blow you around a little bit, but I don't think that it's going to be, too bad. And so, hey, listen, we'll do it. We don't have to make it up to Trapper Nelson's. If we say the hell with it, we can turn around and come back. We can do whatever we want. We're just out kayaking. This is just a place to kayak to. And then, you can always go back and take the boat up. But, the idea is to go and have fun and not kill ourselves out on the water. So however you guys want this to be, we'll make it that way. Um, but it should be really beautiful out there. And then tomorrow, I'm going to be looking into our camping trip in March or April at Peace River. So just keep in mind, does anybody have a time that's definitely not good in March or April? When is Easter? Easter's the 7th of April or something this year? Am I right about that? All right. Does anybody have any definite plans with kids or, their spring break and that kind of stuff? Any time that works better? It, okay. Would you rather be it during that time so the kids can come or around that time?
Yeah, if they want to go.
The only thing about that is it might just be busy and hard to get time there. But can you do me a favor and text me tonight or tomorrow morning and just let me know what your availability is and what you would prefer, because it's kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of another to me. Okay? But we're going to start having an annual camping trip. Do you like to camp? It should be really, really fun. I love to camp. I love to be out in the woods. Have you ever been to Peace River? I know that Todd's been to Peace River. Dawn's been to Peace River. And, that's supposed to be a really, quiet, calm, out in the woods place. So we'll talk about that more as I have more details. But, I'll probably send a text around tomorrow asking you to RSVP for our Adventure Club trip on the 19th. Please do that. I really work hard to try and communicate with you guys through text, through email, and a lot of times the responses are kind of weak. So just respond back to me so that I know who's definitely going, who's not. If you respond 2 or 3 times, it's better than me being a little confused about who's coming and who's not. It only takes a second to do that. Because, 2, I only send the information, the details, to the people who have RSVP'd or RSVP'd maybe. You know what I mean? If you think you might come or might not, just RSVP maybe, and then you'll still be on that list, because I don't like to inundate people with information that they don't want. I really try to segment the information. Okay? Any questions about that? So we'll have a barbecue. We'll bring our kayaks. We'll go have some fun. Hopefully, this beautiful weather will hold out, and it'll be warm but not hot, and cold but not cool. And we'll spend some time in the water, and we'll cook up some good food and have a nice time. Okay? The next thing is that our Adventure Club trip, not Adventure Club trip, excuse me, our full moon beach satsang at Oceanfront Park is going to be on Monday the 21st at 7 p.m. at Oceanfront Park, which is always very beautiful. First one of the year. And I'm really looking forward to that. So put that on your calendar. This month, we always have satsang the first 4 Wednesdays of the month. And if there is a month where we have 5 Wednesdays, we take that Wednesday off and we rest and clean our house. That happens, I think it's the 29th, if I'm not mistaken. This month, the last Wednesday of this month, we will not be here, okay? Maybe it's the 31st, actually, and I think about it, because I think it's the 20... Right? And then it's the 23rd is... sometimes, for those of you who are new, some people come and they rent the whole Duncan Center out. So we get kicked out for that week. And that's happening on the 23rd. So what we typically will do is a movie night, or we'll use that as an opportunity to do something fun or something different. Sometimes we're on the beach, depending on the weather. I usually kind of wait till it gets a little closer so I can get an idea of what the weather is. But we'll do something different on that night. The movie nights are really fun. We usually watch movies with like a spiritual sort of genre. But usually fun, except for that one. What was it, Into the Wild, where we all kind of walked out shaking a little,
I tried to warn you.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, your instincts were good. But so I will keep you all posted on that. Please stay tuned in to the text list and the emails. I put a lot of effort into that to really try and make the communication clear, let you know what's going on. Okay. All right. Any questions on that? Hey, Renee Forte. How are you, Renee? How you doing, Tracy? Welcome. I just want to say hi to the people in Facebook land and thank you all for being here. You are as much a part of this as everyone here. And if you have questions, post them. I'll do my best to try and answer them. Sometimes it's timely, sometimes it's not. But just I'm glad that we, this day and age, we can reach out with this information, all over the world with these things. So, all right. So if there are no questions, I'm going to have a sip of water. And before we start our initial meditation, and our initial meditation is just to let go of the day and to really be here in this moment. Okay? And I'll guide you through that. When we open our eyes and we start satsang, I will start to give a teaching. I'd like to share with you some things about meditation tonight. And I really want you guys to ask questions and give me input. Okay? Because I need to know what you need help with. I need to know what your questions are and what questions you want answered. Sometimes people tend to be a little shy in satsang, and I'm urging you to leave your shyness outside the door. Okay? This is sort of meant to be like a big mentoring session. All right? And I am here to answer your questions and work with you. If you have a question, most likely many people in the room have the same question. When I'm answering a person's question, a lot of times, you may get more from it than the person that I'm actually speaking with. So, open yourself up. Don't be shy. Okay? How you doing, Allie? All right. We are going to meditate now. So sit up and be as alert as possible. And I want you to be 150% here in this moment with me and nowhere else. Okay? And if you notice your attention wandering off, which it will, just be aware of it and bring your attention back here. And I will guide you through this. It'll be about 5 minutes, and the bell will indicate the beginning and the end of meditation. Okay? So close your eyes. Make sure you're sitting comfortably. And as you hear the sound of the bell, let it grab your attention and bring it to this moment. And as the bell fades, just stay here. We'll begin by taking 3 deep, relaxing breaths together. First deep breath in. And exhale. Second deep breath in. And exhale. Third deep breath in. And exhale. Continue breathing deeply but gently into your abdomen. And I encourage you to breathe more and more slowly. until you're breathing as slowly as possible without being at all uncomfortable. As you're breathing slowly, let all the muscles in your body relax. And let all the muscles in your face relax. Now smile, as it will help cultivate feelings that we want to cultivate. And be aware of the room that you're in. Be aware of any sounds. Smells. Tastes. Sensations on your skin. Be aware of the energy in the room. The energy of the people around you. And for the next several moments, until you hear the bell, just concentrate on one breath at a time. Concentrate on the in-breath and then the out-breath. And all you're doing for the next several moments is sitting and breathing and being aware of where you are. Welcome, welcome to Satsang. Hello, Taffy and Ruth. Glad you are here with us too. It being the beginning of the year, many people are looking for change, to do 2019 differently in 2018. And I always encourage people to stay with the simple answers. You know, a lot of times we look for complicated answers when simple answers really will suffice. The first things to check: are you hydrated? Are you exercising a little bit? How are you eating? Are you resting? Is your house clean? That stuff is enough to keep you busy all year. Don't go looking for complicated answers. Start with the simple and the obvious. They will have a very profound effect on you. That's why if you were here last week for Fireside Satsang, you know, I handed out a lot of Zen list cards. And we have more of those. If you need more, they're out there, which is just a list of the things that you do on a daily basis that create the conditions for your mind to be peaceful. Okay? So we talked about that last week. What I want to concentrate on today is meditation. Many people know the word meditation now. It wasn't really so when I first started. I think that's very interesting. But many people really misunderstand meditation. And the reason that they misunderstand meditation is because they are approaching meditation from the level of mind. And this creates a really kind of a great confusion and a great difficulty in actually bearing the fruit of your meditation practice. When we are in the mind-identified state, meaning that we are believing ourselves to be the thoughts in our minds, all we do is think. It's just like one line that continues, that's never broken. And so even meditation becomes something to think about. How do I meditate? What are the steps to meditation? Where am I trying to go? What is the goal of meditation? That brings a little of that hot stuff up in my throat when I say that. Come on, bring the lights up a little bit. There you are. How's that? Too much? Yeah. I bring it up to where I see you wince, and then I just pull it down a little bit. When I am describing meditation to you, When I'm trying to guide you through meditation, I am inviting you into my practice. I am meditating with you. And I am describing out loud what I am doing inside. The challenge always for a teacher, I think, is to give a student a glimpse of what it's like to be beyond mind, to transcend mind, to go beyond thought. We think about everything. We even think about meditation. How can I get you to see what it's like to be without thought? Because I have to use thoughts and words to describe it to you, which immediately turns it into a concept in your mind, right? It's a very strange thing to experience when you first start experiencing it. When you start to experience true transcendence of the mind, meaning that space of no thought, that you are aware and that you have gone beyond thought. You've realized that thoughts are optional, that thoughts are not you. And yet you are here, floating without thoughts. You see, what you have to realize is that the world you live in, who you are, who you think you are, how the world is, what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad, all of that are just ideas in your mind. Your entire world is an idea in your mind. So when you go beyond all ideas, all thoughts, all concepts, you even go beyond everything that you think you know to be real. Can you understand the reluctance to do that? There's tremendous resistance at times. So when you're sitting, in meditation, and one of the reasons that I wanted to speak on meditation tonight is because meditation is too often and too easily overlooked. It's like a meditation. Give me something complicated. Give me something hard. While meditation in its purest form is simple, it is not easy. Now, I don't want to set you up that say that, oh my God, it's so hard. I don't want you to create that idea in your head. But it requires practice. And it requires diligence. And it is the most important thing that you will ever do in your human form. And so I really want to put an exclamation point on it, that meditation is far, far, far more important than most people realize. And we get so hung up in the everyday of our life and the paying bills and the responsibilities that it's very easy to look right past your meditation on a daily basis. Who here meditates every day? Try, that's no. That is very polite no. I appreciate that. Hey, Dave Babineau. How you doing, Dave? We are now being tuned in from Canada, where it is much colder than it is here. Hope you're warm. Do you see what I mean? Are any of the new people here, are you really familiar with meditation? Don't be afraid to ask a question. You know what I mean? Don't be afraid to say, I don't know, too. Because you probably don't. You probably think you do. But it's different learning about meditation or watching a video saying this is what you do and now I'm meditating and actually experiencing meditation. And so what I'm wanting to do is I'm wanting to lead you to the experience of transcendence. How can I feebly describe in words what that experience of transcendence is? It's the moment that I give it a word, I make it an object, and it's not an object. So I have to be extraordinarily careful about that. So how I would at least try to describe it to you is by trying to describe what is not there. Okay? There is no time. So in that transcendent state, there is no such thing as time. Now, when there is no time, can there be past? Can there be future? Be bold.
No.
No. Thank you. Next time, slam your head. No. So right off the bat, it's completely goofy. Because we are trained into time-based reality. So you're sitting with no particular awareness of time. There's no you in the sense of how you know you. How do you know you?
By feeling.
By feeling? There's mics, and I just prefer that you use the mics when you can. I can repeat that when it was a short one. By feeling? Okay? So you know you exist because you have a sense that you are a form, right? But how else do you know you? Yeah, there's one here, and I think Tom has the other one. Yeah.
Because he's so verbose.
Because people can hurt you, that's how you know you're alive.
It's everything though, like it's like the accumulation too of how people know you. I've noticed lately, like with New Year's resolutions, like I've, even from last year, I've changed things about myself, but it doesn't matter. People still assume you're this way because they've had that experience of you that way. So you know yourself also through the mirror of other people and what they think.
In that moment, right?
Or the accumulation, like as I said, they developed an idea of you, and even if you're doing something that's not that, they still are like, no, you are you. You're, chronically this way, or
Late or
whatever.
Right. Which is a mental formation of yourself, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So you know yourself, right, as a mental formation, as an idea. I am Tom Notarianni, I am good at this, I am Italian, I'm American, I come from here, You see that whole story? That whole book that you have written about yourself? That's not there either. In the transcendent state, when you've transcended all ideas, you've even transcended your idea and your story about yourself. same thing with the world you think you live in. We don't live all in the same world. We live on the same world, but not in the same world. It's very, very different from person to person. Each one of us completely unique, living in a completely unique world. The world of our perceiving, the world of our perception. And you can see evidence of these things, why people can be in the very same experience, having completely different experiences, because of what their mind is doing with it. All that is gone. So with all that gone, what's left? Hmm?
I said,
Yes. Nothing. It's just nothing. It's just the pure awareness. Without any thoughts, without any opinions, without any stories, without any time, without any past, without any future. So can you see your natural resistance to that state? You have to let go of everything that you believe to be real. You're not very excited to do that. To be left with nothing. Has anyone here experienced moments of it? Would you like to share about those moments? No? There's nothing to share, right?
No, but Tommy, we've talked about this before, and I've said, I mean, I'm talking about when I'm really and again, you're not supposed to label it, but into the meditation. So in my head, it's a good meditation.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say there's nothing. There's like this feeling that everything is connected, and there's a feeling that you're connected, and to me there's an overwhelming feeling of peace, and so I mean I don't think it's just nothing. Maybe our state without thinking is that, like a child perhaps feeling connected, and I don't know.
It is the natural calm abiding state. Our true nature is peaceful, is joyful. And it's all, when you are in that state, there is great peace. But it's not a mental peace. It's not a mental joy. It is the peace and the joy of just being. It is our natural state. And we experience our natural state in the absence of all of the things that I just described to you. And so, if somehow it is even just a desirable state, we really want to resist the urge to label it or to try and mentally understand it, because that pulls you back into your mind. And this is another part of the difficulty that happens with meditation, is that we have this urge sometimes to describe it. Pulls you right back into the thinking mind.
And I'm going right back into my thinking mind because I heard you say it's one of the most important things.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Well, it's one of the most important things in regard to our practice, in regard to realization. So in other words, realizing the truth of yourself is why we're here. And why we're here in Satsang, not why we're here on this earth. Okay? Why we're here on this earth, who knows? But most of us have come to this path through suffering. You see? And so the spiritual path, enlightenment, is really to be without suffering. So the things that you transcend in realization through and realize, as you transcend the mind, you transcend the causes of suffering. The past, the future, the imagination, the memories, the identification with mind, the identification with body, the judgments, all the things that the mind creates. The mind can create living hell for us, and has at times. And some people have gotten to a point of so much pain that it was better to just end the mind for them, because they were in so much pain, so much suffering. So why is meditation important? Because it's the most powerful tool, the most focused and pointed tool. And it is the practice that will lead you to experience the realization that you're not the thoughts in your head. And it will be you practicing being without the thoughts in your head. Could you imagine what that must feel like? We can do it now. I have a bottle of scotch. And we're going to experience it for a moment. But that's why people drink. That's why people do drugs, because it cuts that cord for a moment. But the problem is that you're not transcending thought. You're descending thought when you do that. And it creates more problem when you come up back into thought, and now you're chemically you're poisoned, and there's so much more suffering in the wake of that. You're going to add to that, Tom?
I was just going to say that as I'm sitting here trying not to let it happen, I'm watching. My mind wants to really get in here and figure out why I should want to do that. Mm-hmm. At the same time, there's a part of me going like, "You're just so fun. You just won't give it up, will you?" You know, and it's kind of like the two aspects of it. One part of it is just kind of watching it be silly almost, and the other part wants to know, like, he really wants to nail this down, you know?
Well, yeah, the mind is always like sort of sneaking around, trying to be part of the process of going beyond the mind. Saying, yeah, hey, let me let me just understand that. Let me think about that a little bit, and then I'll do it, right? And it's really funny that this is the difficulty, is that for your whole adult life, you have been thinking. And there is this normal sort of addiction to thinking, because everybody's doing it. Everybody's always constantly thinking. And so there's no reason really to question it. It's just what's happening for everybody. But then you look at the state of the world, there are wonderful things about the world. This is not to poo-poo the world, but there is a lot of conflict in humanity. And it all is born in the mind. And we are just addicted and identified with thinking. And we can't stop thinking. And then the weird part is that you're going to the problem for the answer. You're going to your mind to say, your mind, figure out how to stop thinking. The mind says, well, okay, let's read this book, and this one said this, and this one said that. We got to figure this out. You'll spend your whole life doing that, and you'll never figure it out, because there's nothing to figure out. There's only to let go. There is only to realize that you can easily exist without thought. And what happens then is your relationship to all of this thought is completely different. You're not identified as it anymore. It's just something that you use to teach satsang, I think, and I form language that I can communicate with, that you can receive, and that we can communicate with. To really be without thought, to really be without thought, to really be without time, is to be without all the things that are anchoring you. You're anchored in your identification as a person. You're anchored in time. There's the future. There's the past. I'm here in the middle. You're anchored in the world. I know that I'm on Earth, and I know that, I'm in Florida, United States, or whatever. How do you know this is Earth? Somebody told you this is Earth. The birds and the bees don't know they're on Earth. And even if in humanity, where we have different languages throughout the world, there are different sort of squeaks that describe different things. And yet we take all of this thought so seriously. You can be so punished by your thoughts. Your mind, for whatever reason, is so easily prone to negativity. And your mind can tell you that right now, the way that your life is isn't good enough. And so you suffer life. But are you suffering life, or are you suffering your ideas about life? And if you're suffering your ideas about life, well, how silly is that? What'd you say? Yeah. You're suffering your imagination. So meditation is you every day trying to knock one brick out of that wall between you and realization. Because you have to start to have moments when you experience no mind. And then you have to start to get comfortable in no mind. And then you have to learn to function in no mind in a mind-based world. This takes practice. Meditation is where it starts. And daily meditation. You can do it in the morning, you can do it in the evening. Don't watch the TV. That's just going to put stuff in your head. We're trying to empty your head out. You don't even really need to read books or things like that. You may be at that phase. Sometimes that's helpful, but just be quiet. Just be still. Bring your attention away from thought. Let me hear some comments from you guys. Tell me what you need help with. Tell me what you understand, what you don't understand. One at a time now, okay? Want to talk, Jenny? Pass the mic up.
I didn't leave the shyness.
This is a good opportunity to just practice. It's okay.
Well, I would say I'm definitely that person that gets reads all the books and gets hung up on the, am I doing this right? So maybe times when I have been able to kind of lose myself, it's just happened accidentally. But I guess I'm kind of stuck where you're saying live your life
Mm.
kind of as a meditation.
Mm.
I'm not able to, I guess, picture that.
Okay. Meditation is 150% present in the moment. And we do this typically with your eyes closed, although you can meditate with your eyes open too. Some prefer that because they don't want to block anything out. But for most of it, it's a little bit easier when we close our eyes, and it cuts out some of the sensory input. Okay? And it helps us be more with just the vast space of awareness, you know? It takes away dimension. And so when your eyes are closed, you're 150% present, attention fully in the moment. And with your eyes open, you are 150% present, 150% attention in the moment. Me teaching this satsang is a meditation for me. I am here with you. You can feel it. If I was not, all of you would feel it immediately. Especially the ones that have been around for a long time, be coming up after satsang asking me what's wrong. Ultimately, in meditation, eyes open, eyes closed. With eyes open, they call it mindfulness. You're washing the dish, right? You wash one dish. Very present. This is the only thing that's happening in the world. I'm washing my dish. That's the only thing. You're not washing the dish and thinking about what you're going to do next and what you did yesterday and what this person said and watching the TV and listen. No. It's the opposite of that. You're very present to every breath. The Buddhists would tell you, be present to every second. And when you can be present to every second, divide that second up into 1,000 pieces and be present to every one of those. And when you can do that, then divide every one of those into 1,000 and be present to every one of them. They want you present. Meditation is the ultimate presence. You're practicing staying present, holding presence, holding your attention in the present moment. Eyes open, eyes closed, driving the car, cleaning the house. What's the difference?
It sounds wonderful.
But that's always like,
right.
but. There you
But
go.
there's a but. But how can you do that all the time? I mean, we have to multitask. You driving the car, you have to pay attention to lots of things going on around you. You know, if you're caring for others, I'm a nanny. I have to have one eye on that kid all the time, whether I'm washing dishes or washing clothes or washing the floor. How does it relate, I guess, to multitasking? And
you know, science has shown that we don't really multitask. We just move our attention very quickly from task to task, between tasks. We can't really hold our attention on two things at once. And so you can be present to the moment that you're in. And if the moment that you're in, the kid is crying, I'm washing the dishes, the phone is ringing, you're present to that. But you're going to notice that you still can only do one thing at a time. I'm either going to answer the phone, I'm going to pick up the child, or I'm going to wash the dish. Okay? And this will really serve you in your practice. That right now I'm focused on the child. Next I'm focused on the phone. Next I'm focused on the thing. So you will break those things down. And you will begin to realize that you're really only doing one thing at a time anyway. And when you are bringing consciousness to this, to that which is unconscious, and you're starting to consciously do it, you'll find that what you do far more skillfully, And you do a much better job because you're present to what you're doing. If I'm washing the dish and thinking about the next thing, it might be clean, it might not. I throw it in the thing. And this is something that we don't want to cultivate. You know, we don't want to create that habitual mind pattern of never being where we are. And we've all already done that. Because when you are present, the state that Dawn was describing, that happens when you're present. When you're not present and you're up in the thoughts, it's like the clouds coming over the sun and obscuring the sun. The sun is still there, but it can't be seen because of the clouds of the mind. But that nature, your happiest or most joyful, most peaceful moment is every moment that's available to you. It's not dependent on anything outside of you. It's not dependent on things being a certain way. That only satisfies your ego. That kind of happiness is only a mental happiness. When your mind is saying that life should be this way, and then life shows up that way, and then you're happy. Because you're in agreement. Your mind is in agreement. Your ego is in agreement with it. But you're just back in your mind. So you will find, like, start on the cushion. Start to experience moments. Like you say, you stumble into it. Sometimes that's just how it is. That you're just sitting and the mind is jabbering away like it always does, and all of a sudden the mind subsides. You're going, whoa, what is this? Although you're not thinking about it. You're just like realizing that you're in a different place than you've ever been. And you're just being, and you're going, whoa, this feels really good. But it becomes difficult for you because you start needing to grab onto something. Time, thoughts, something. Because you feel it kind of slipping. So the idea is to start in meditation and really have a robust, consistent meditation practice. Have a place that you meditate if you can. A sacred space that's quiet, that's peaceful, that you meditate every day, that you have that energy, you know? And you go sit and you go be still. And you go be still. And you start to get comfortable in being still. It starts to become familiar. What you start to realize too in meditation, that thoughts are not the only thing in your mind. That thoughts are arising in this vast space of silence. And you begin to dwell in the silence. Like it seems like your attention always has to be somewhere, right? Like there's always this awareness that's always aware. And your attention always seems to need to be somewhere. Like my attention has never not been anywhere. I've never experienced that. And so when you begin to discover that yes, there is all of this space of silence in the mind, and you can rest your attention and dwell with your attention in the space of silence. No thoughts. No thoughts, no problems. Thoughts are the problem. Thoughts are the suffering. And it's so amazing the things that arise in our minds. Just out of habituation. Just out of conditioning. No questions in Facebook land? Please go ahead.
I'm not in Facebook land. I'm in real land here. This is not going to be in any particular order. It's just a bunch of comments. But my mind, I feel as I get older, is just getting more and more full with information. And it's getting harder and harder to just get rid of some of that stuff. I find with meditation that our minds are so powerful and they control so much. And we can control our minds, but it's hard because sometimes it takes over. But when the mind is in that certain place of meditation, it's almost like, I know when I do it, eventually I feel like there's just something like a black curtain that just went over because there's no thoughts. And I get into that spot that's almost, it's not sleep and it's not awake. It's in that in between that it does something to me so much that it's the most incredible feeling. I don't want to use the word drug, but it's like, it's the most peaceful spot I've ever been to in my life. And when I get there, it's just like amazing. And but I have so much clutter in my head that it takes a lot of practice.
Tell me your name.
Brianna.
Brianna, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
See, this is an interesting thing. Like, it sounds familiar. Has anybody else experienced those moments, the black curtain moments, right? And you said something interesting. You said, when I get there, this is one of the common misconceptions about meditation, is that is a state that you went and visited and then left. It's not true. It feels like it, and I can understand that description, but I'm going to shine some light on that. That state is always there. It's just covered up with all the junk in your mind. You see? That is your natural state. That is the pure awareness. But the pure awareness gets covered up by the constant thinking in the mind, and so you don't experience it, because where you are, where your attention is in your mind, chasing thoughts. You are already enlightened, you just don't realize it. The mind is so loud. This is why when I'm describing meditation to you, the only way that I can really accurately describe it to you is the absence of this, the absence of that, the absence of this, the absence of that. Because what's left when all those things are gone is this ineffable awareness that is not this body, that is not this mind, that feels expansive, true? That feels infinite, that has no form, has no shape, has no limits. The pure awareness. But what happens is then you come back into identification with mind. And so your true nature is then obscured by the mind. So it's wonderful that you are experiencing that state. That is very profound. Your practice is to get in that state and get comfortable in that state. Get comfortable not thinking. Get comfortable being in that very undescribable place. And I think that is like what is so difficult for us at times, is that once we experience that, we want to know it. We want to define it. We want to give it parameters. We want to, you know what I mean? We want to make a concept out of it. The minute you do that, it's gone.
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
Well, I'm a huge proponent of deep diaphragmatic breathing.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that's another thing that people have to learn how to do.
Mm-hmm.
I know when they go to the doctor, they say breathe in deeply, whatever. And I do. I push my stomach out. I see other people breathing from their chests. I try to teach my mom and all this stuff. And I find that relaxing the nervous system from the deep breathing, obviously, I mean, everyone does it when you're meditating to go, they always say go to the deep breath. It really can, because your nervous system relaxes, so your mind, it can help that, obviously,
Sure.
which is nice. Yeah. So I love to breathe.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. You do you know the rest of you? Do you notice that when you're breathing, if you're upset, you're breathing to here. You're like, it's one of the indications, like when you're being aware of yourself, like mindfulness, being a meditation throughout the day, is being aware of your inner state at all times. Being aware, am I breathing deeply into my abdomen? Are my muscles relaxed? Are the muscles around my eyes relaxed? Because when we're thinking, like you can see people thinking, right? Their face is all scrunched up like a Popeye character. What was that guy, Muggsy? Zena on Facebook says she wishes she could get to those black curtain moments. So, not everybody gets there. Zena, if you keep practicing, and I'm going to be coming out with some videos, that you can practice with me. It's just a matter of time.
I think for me, what's been difficult, because I was meditating and then, and I don't know, I feel like November and December kind of washed away with everything. Getting back to meditation, I find that you do crave it and judge it, because I'm like, I want to get to that space. I want to get to that space. And, for example, being on a break and going back to work. I did a walking beach meditation for an hour and a half, and it still was like, there'd be like 2 seconds where the waves crashed that I was present, and then I'd be like, and then I'm going to make this, and what am I going to do? And then, it was like you can't, there's just some days when you can't shut it off.
Yeah, sure.
But I try to think that, it's still the practice of, and it makes sense if you're consciously being unconscious, or if you're mostly being unconscious, and I mean in your brain and thinking, it's like a rut that you've created. And so, of course, you're not just the current's going to go that way. You're not just going to be able to pop out of it all the time. And that it makes sense to me now when you talk about doing it every day, that it really is like an exercise of practice, which I didn't really fully understand till recently.
When you realize the self, it doesn't matter what's going on in the mind. Even if the mind is noisy and aggravated and jumpy and jumping around, this too is only being observed. So there's no such thing really as a good meditation or a bad meditation. Meditation is meditation. Meditation is being fully present in the moment to whatever is so. If the mind is very, very loud and obnoxious and upset and doing jumping jacks and backflips, then you just stay present to that. That's all. You can even laugh at it. But it really, it is the nature of mind that thoughts arise. If you go looking for them, you will always find them. They are always there. But are you identified as them? Are they pulling you out of the present moment? That's when they become a problem. There can be an air conditioner running in the background, and maybe for a moment you hear the air conditioner, and then you don't hear it anymore after a while, right? The air conditioner's still running. The mind is still thinking. The thoughts are there. So even a very active mind is an opportunity to practice. This is what the mind is doing. Are you your mind? Are you your mind? So where are you when the mind is doing its thing? And if you remain as the self, when the mind is doing its thing, it doesn't even matter then either. It's when the self gets sucked up into identification with mind and starts to become the thoughts, you know, that's when you have disconnected from your natural state. So even, you know, you're walking on the beach, instead of noticing the waves, you're noticing the waves in your mind. You know? And you're just sort of watching them. There's even contemplative meditation. You know what I mean? If there are things that you're looking to create for work or things like that, and you're just sort of being present and being creative, you know, in that moment, being present to sort of, you know, just sort of dancing and playing with thoughts and seeing what arises, what new perspective, what new ideas come. You know, meditation and presence is the tool of the artist. You know, art does not come from the mind. Art comes from the self. And the brilliance comes from beyond the mind. The mind somehow expresses it in this world. But if you've had these sort of black curtain moments, you know, you really have a sense that you are far, far more than this mind and body. But you can never figure that out, and you can never put that into words what that is. It's just a knowing. It's just a realization. And you realize that all of the silliness that goes on in your head and all of the things that you've been suffering throughout your life, you realize that it's all just imagination, that it all doesn't matter. And it's just mind-made suffering. So even a busy mind can be a meditation. When my mind is just doing aerobics, it's okay. Do what you need to do. And I'm present to that too, like the air conditioner running in the background. But I always remain as the self. And if for a moment I get pulled into identification, the moment I catch it, I come back out. So you're all getting it. Nobody has anything to see. There's just nothing. Are you starting to realize what I'm sharing with you tonight? It's a very it's like I'm trying to show you something that can't be directly seen. You know? It can only be experienced. Once you experience it, you want to just go around like slapping everybody, like, have this experience, have this experience. Like, you know, you're suffering for no reason. For no reason. You're suffering ignorance. And it's amazing what your mind can do to you, especially if you have some like past trauma, you know, like we all have. Anybody grew up Italian? Learn how to duck at an early age, you know. You know, because when we're in pain, we are different people. You know, you want to talk about struggling in meditation. Try to meditate when you're in pain. I don't mean physical pain. I mean emotional pain. Because this is an aspect of this mental formation, you know, that we've talked about in the past, and we're going to talk about a lot more in the future. please. Microphone, please. And
You just
will
you
you tell me your name?
Sure, I'm Robin.
Robin. Nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you. Thanks for having me. You just hit on my blockage. I had at one time an active yoga practice that I myself, and through a series of events, have become and am presently, and this has been some years now that I'm struggling with this, unable to achieve again that state of not being, but being, by not being. So I've come here looking for tips on how to potentially get back there. I'd like very much to be back there, because I think that would, the quieting of my mind is something I look for. But even in the quieting of my mind, there's still an active thought process occurring about all of the other things that I should be doing at that moment.
So what did I hit on? What did I say that gave you a moment?
When you talked about how our suffering comes from traumas that we have experienced, and that's what I mean by the series of events.
Yes. You know, the pain hijacks the mind. And we are very different people when we are in pain. You perceive differently, you think differently, you act differently, you choose differently. Because it seems as though the mind is trying in a very feeble and unskilled way to sort of placate that pain or move us away from that pain. But when we're feeling that kind of pain, what's the first thing that you want to do?
Numb out.
Numb out, run away. Run away. Pain, I want it off me. I want it. I just, it's so uncomfortable, and you just want that off of you. No matter what do I need to do right now to get this off of me? Okay? Drink, drugs, sex, fight, clean, spend money, anything. Anything to just somehow wrench my attention off of it, and because it's amazing how bad we can feel inside at times, isn't it? I mean, my gosh, you know, some of the pain that I have felt in my life, I mean, it's like getting cracked in the face with a 2x4, you know? It's just, it's like, how could I possibly feel this bad? Well, you know, we have the traumas of our past, and then something in the present, right, come and trigger that trauma, and so you're noticing that you're having a completely disproportionate reaction to what's happening in the moment, right? But you seemingly still the pain is there, and the pain is real. So how do you transform the pain? How you transform the pain is you do the opposite of what you instinctually want to do. You don't run from it, you face it. You become very, very present to it. So in other words, the pain that we're talking about is like an emotional pain. It's like an energy in our chakras, in our chest, typically in our torso, many times in our heart chakra. And you feel it just crunching down. You feel that chakra close. You feel the energy struggle to move. And it's almost nauseous or painful, right? And so immediately you want to move fast, do fast, you know? You get still. And you bring all of your consciousness to that energy. And you bring into consciousness what is unconscious. How do we know it's unconscious? Where does that pain come from? You know it's inside you, right? It's inside you. So you have to be creating it for you. No one is creating it. The mind body is creating it out of a conditioned pattern right? A mental, psychological formation is forming that is a gangle of thoughts attached with it, a very nasty feeling. And we can become identified with that. We can become addicted to our pain even, right? You are creating that for you. Now you know that you would never create that for yourself intentionally or consciously, right? So you know that that is happening without your conscious awareness. So you bring your conscious awareness to it. As much as you don't want to. As reluctant as you are to just look at your energy, to just look at it, to really bring the full consciousness, the full attention to this feeling, this very uncomfortable feeling. And you know what you find there? Nothing. It's just an uncomfortable feeling. There are times that if you're having sort of a contemplative observation in your practice, in other words, I'm feeling a lot of pain. I know that there are thoughts related to that pain. So what I'll do sometimes is I'll lay back and I'll start thinking different thoughts around what I think might be bothering. This thought, that thought, this thought, and I feel the energy move. I go, okay, now I need to examine this thought, and then I start thinking thoughts around that thought. And there are times when I hit the thought and the thought hits the pain and goes zoop, and it's all gone. It's the coolest thing. When you come into presence, that pain will leave. There may be some residual pain, because like if I have a tub of water and I'm shaking it and shaking it and shaking it, when I stop shaking it, the water still does this for a while, right? It can have a little momentum to it. But presence is the key. When you become fully present in the moment, you're in pain, and you can just be fully present to the pain because that's what's there. There are times when I have dissolved it 100% gone. And sat there kind of laughing like, wow. Wow. Do you think that's something you can do, Robin? Have you ever tried it?
Sure.
Microphone, please. The microphone, if you want to make some comments.
Well, you asked a couple questions there. So the first is, I'd like to think it's something that I can do because it is something that I once did prior to these external factors stirring up the water.
Giving you a spiritual opportunity, we call that.
Opportunity,
Yes.
that's right.
We call
That's
them
right.
AFCOs. I'll tell you what that is after class.
Okay. But that's right, and I say that in my work. Some people see a mess, I see an opportunity, and I tell them that. But when I try to, and those are the moments that I find myself the most present, when things are the most uninhibited in my work, let's say. It's when I try to, so to address your second question, have I been there? Well, I think I've said them both. So yes, I've been there, and I would like to get back there. The problem is that I just don't, and again, what I've come here looking for, and I appreciate everything you just said. Well, I'd love to get there again. So the question for me is, how can I, paralysis by analysis is what I like to call my condition. How can I get out of that cycle to get where, and pardon me, to get where you've
described,
where you've just described exactly.
The first thing is that you have to realize that it's not a there. You know, like this is a very, very common misunderstanding, that you're trying to get somewhere, that you're not there now and you need to get there. How do I get from here to there? You have to first realize that you're already there. and you've never left there. That state is always available to you. That natural state, the pure awareness, is not something that you visit and come back to. You are the awareness that through your pain is getting drawn back into identification with mind. And so, when you become present, you're not in your mind anymore. Not become present. When you realize presence, when you are sitting and being present, even to the pain, even to the thoughts in the mind, if that's what's there in the moment, then be present to it. Just because the pain is there and just because the thoughts are there does not mean that you are not present unless you are identified with them. Unless you are getting up in your mind and you're trying to mentally figure this out, you will chase your tail forever doing that. It is a bottomless hole of ideas. And you may get to some ideas that make you feel a little better for a moment, but you have not transcended it.
Where can I go to learn? You said you come out with some videos. Where?
You know,
what resources exist now?
I do see students, and I do mentor one-on-one students if there's something specific. We're here every Wednesday.
Well, and I'm asking in a general sense. If you're talking about meditation, how, so not to get there, I understand what you're saying, and maybe I'm mischaracterizing what it is.
So your question is?
The thoughts.
Oh, would you
just
use the
to-
microphone, by the way? Because people are...
Sorry.
That's all right.
And I
We're
don't
gonna
mean to
get you a
monopolize,
microphone,
and I
Shane.
certainly don't mean to monopolize the
No, no,
conversation.
no.
But
It's good.
the thoughts that I don't want to have are constantly
Okay.
invading my practice.
Yeah, you see, who is the I that doesn't want to have them? You are, from this very brief interaction, and some of your words seem to be indicating to me that you are engaging the mind on the level of mind. And you are saying, what are these words that I don't want? Well, who is the I that doesn't want them? The mind can have arguments with the mind. And so you have to begin to realize when you are doing that. You know what I mean? When, the self watches even the argument that the mind is having with the mind.
Yes,
And you can see it, right?
absolutely.
Mm? And in that
Multiple characters.
Yes. Oh, sure. Oh, it can get really elaborate, can it? And when you, it's that moment that you're jumping back into mind, and you're getting so intimately involved with this whole garbage that's going on in the mind, instead of just watching it. The difference is when you're identified as the garbage and the ping pong match that's going on in the mind, the argument that's going on in the mind, and you're part of that and you're doing all of this figuring out, you're sucked back up into your mind. And you know that you're sucked back up into your mind because, one, you're in pain and you're not present. And so this is the realization, is to practice sitting as the observer and just watching the mind. Just really observing what's going on in the mind. Like, just in the same way that you see what's outside you is not you, use that same perspective inside you. And in the same way, what is outside you is not you, what is inside you is not you either. Because it's all observed. You are the observer of all things outside you, and you are the observer of all things inside you. And just like this orchid is not me, my thoughts are not me either. Why? Because I'm the observer. If it can be observed, can it be you? That might be a good place to leave it. Meditate on that for a while. Hi, Stacy. Glad you can tune in. Interesting, right? I've studied this for a very long time. And this is, I think, as simple as anyone can explain it to you. And yet, it's not very simple, right?
That's right. I accept and acknowledge that they're faulty cognitions.
Mhm.
So the goal is to change the
Yeah, no goal. This is where you're getting tied up.
right,
When you
getting
say
there.
that, when you say there's a goal, you are on the level of mind dealing with the mind.
So then, what is it that should be strived for?
Presence. Just watch the mind. You're in the mind. You are the mind, and you're saying this part of my mind has to win over this part of my mind. You're still in the mind. What's the difference? Once this part of the mind wins, then another one comes try to be king of the hill. The observer, the one watching the thoughts. This is why I want to have this conversation about meditation with you guys tonight. Because most of you, when you experience meditation, most of you are only experiencing mind on the level of mind. When you transcend your mind, all of this goes away. I mean, as a practical matter, as a tip, even to say like tips, I don't even like those kind of things because they lead you back to your mind. Here's how you do this, and here's how you do that, and these are the steps to meditation and all this other stuff. It just makes an idea out of it. I don't want you to make an idea out of it. I don't want to give you any tips. I just want you to be still, stay present in the moment, and hold your attention in the silence in your mind. And when you can do that, you will experience what I'm describing to you.
Well, you described that when the thoughts interrupt your being present, you're immediately able to zip those thoughts away and get back into the moment.
I don't zip them away. They don't go anywhere. I just realize that I am starting to become identified in the thoughts in my mind. And I just come back out and I observe them. In other words, I'm giving them attention or I'm taking attention away. You see?
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing like with I like to use the metaphor of a restaurant. If you're in a crowded restaurant, you're having a conversation with a friend, and you're very much involved in that conversation. You have your attention in that conversation. You notice that you really don't hear the people those people in the restaurant that are talking are a metaphor for the thoughts in your mind. They're there. They're jabbering away. But when your attention is gone, it's like they're gone. Your attention is everything. So you've got to train your attention to be in the present moment. And what's happening is my attention will get drawn up into some war that's going on into my head. And when I realize that I'm getting too intimately involved with it, I bring my attention back to the breath, back to the moment, back to presence. You see? Tom, would you pass the mic back to Tom if you don't have anything else to say?
You know what? I'm a big mind guy too. And when I first came here, my mind, and I've been coming for about a year and a half, maybe. So in that area, yeah. I wanted to fight with everything you said. My mind did not. I know you work out, but what I noticed was as I kept coming, it got. I don't want to say that it made sense because that almost means that my mind can accept it, but things started to fall into place, and the more I did some of the stuff without really knowing why I was doing it, it fell into place. Let's just put it like that.
You start to see more clearly your own humanness and what it is to be human. That's what this is for. That's what satsang is for you to understand what it is to be human and see it clearly. Because our ignorance to our own humanity is what's creating all this suffering and all of this difficulty. If you could see the mechanism that the awareness, the attention, which is like a flashlight in a dark room where you shine it, that's what you see, and the observed, well, if thoughts are bothering you and you take your attention away from them, what happens to the thought? Disappears. A thought is powerless without your attention and without your belief. And that's it. But you have to understand, not understand, you have to begin to experience moments when you're realizing that you are something ineffable beyond the thoughts that even is observing everything the mind is doing. It's in your own rhetoric. I've got to get myself to work out more, you know? There's an I and a myself. One wants to work out and one wants to lay on a couch. Which one are you? But we've got to get to our meditation. I didn't want to keep you all too long. I know that you've been working all day. Yeah, except for Tom. Any last comments or questions? Okay. Does anyone want to stand up and stretch? Or if you want to come, you can take one of the cushions if you would like to meditate on a cushion. Ton, do you need to go?
No, I'm sorry.
Oh, Okay. Yeah, I'm familiar with those. All right. No, don't be sorry. Glad you made it. Hope to see you again. Okay. Okay. So if anyone would like to come and have a seat, we're going to start our concluding meditation. Just make sure that you are sitting comfortably. I'm going to bring the lights down. And this is the most important part of satsang. So make sure that you're sitting up straight. Make sure that you're comfortable. You know, be in a position of attention and alertness, okay? And be in a very high state of awareness as we go through this meditation. Take a few moments to relax yourself in your own way. I encourage you to breathe very slowly and deeply. Without it being at all uncomfortable as you let yourself relax. become very aware of the experience of breathing. Notice the way the rib cage expands, contracts rhythmically. Notice the way the air moves in and out of your body. Most importantly, begin to notice the one that is aware of the breathing. That even though it feels like you breathing, there is something that is aware of breathing. There is something observing breathing. The self is aware of the body breathing. Does the self have a form? Does it have a color? Does it have a limit or a boundary? Or is it infinite? As you reside as the self, do you realize that you are the one that is aware of the breathing, not the breathing itself? as the self and just observe the mind. The self is aware that thoughts are arising. Just observe for a moment. And realize yourself as the self observing the thoughts in the mind. As you reside as the self and observe the mind, observe the space of silence that thoughts are arising in. Begin to notice the space of silence between thoughts. Dwell more and more in the silence. Become very interested in the silence. And be very uninterested in the thoughts. Dwell here until you hear the bell. I love you all very much. And it's always an honor to share this time and space with you. Free hugs at the end of class. There's no hurry, relax. And I hope to see you again soon.